listen, so where we was at, like I said, you got to separate story from fact. So right now where we're at, you're mentally prepared to move on. You're emotionally prepared to move on. So now you just got to, every time that story shows its ugly head, you got to remind yourself of a new story. No. And the new story is you ground yourself in the facts. I am equipped to move right now. We do have enough of a nest egg to move right now. We are mentally and emotionally in agreement to move right now. Every time the story comes up, you tell a new story. Tell the truth. So I always tell people you got to break up with the story that your nervous system is telling itself and marry the truth. The truth is we just went over the truth of your situation. You have a nest egg. It might not be where you want, but you got enough to make the move today. You are in emotional alignment with your spouse, mental alignment. You understand the challenge at hand. So now the only thing left to do is act.
There's such thing as like taking on somebody else's trauma of emotional, like the story you tell yourself. He was an entrepreneur and then he lost his business. And I watched that as a kid. And I think a little bit of that story that you kind of tell yourself is that if you see somebody else's, and I'm not going to say it was a failure, but it's just, that was his time in being an entrepreneur. And I think a little bit of that ambition about being an entrepreneur, coming from an employee to an entrepreneur, if you've seen that, you kind of think like, oh man, I've seen that firsthand, like somebody lose their business and the
Absolutely. I always say something about the first 7 years of everybody's life is the most fundamental belief years is what science calls, right? So if you saw that coming up, your dad with a business and then lost his business, had to go back to work, then your nervous system learned maybe entrepreneurship maybe is not the route. So that's the story that your nervous system has attached to entrepreneurship. So to answer your question directly, that's probably was the pattern that was holding you up for this long before you actually started your business. Even though you had the knowledge, even though you had the skill, even though you knew what you wanted to do, but the story was attached to your nervous. And here's the thing. The stories are not there to harm us. They're really there to protect us. The story that your nervous system attaches to whatever experience is there to really protect us. But in 2026, we have to recognize those patterns to take control over our own life to say, I don't need that protection no more. I'm not teen no more. I'm not 25 no more. I'm a 4-year-old man now with a family that understands I have what it takes to start my own business. So that's where you kind of have to talk back to your nervous system. But absolutely that affects how you move in entrepreneurship or anything in life. Whatever you saw in those first 7 years coming up until you moved out, that's how your nervous system got trained around money, relationships, identity, or health. So yes, that is a great question. So yes. But now that the fact that you saw it, you're recognizing the pattern. You're regulating your body through that, right? We're getting a new revelation on what to do different. Now you got to build a rhythm around that, which is daily habits, and then just put it on repeat mode. That's what the work is. It definitely affects you. Definitely affects you.
Okay. And the daily habits
Yeah.
of what I tell myself, are we suggesting that is when I'm getting those thoughts of the nervous transition, or is that just more like sometimes you do it first thing in the morning, sometimes you do it at night, or is it just when I get those thoughts of like?
So first thing in the morning. So when I say build a rhythm, so this is what I teach the one-on-one community when I do power sessions. When I say build a rhythm that's uniquely for you. So that rhythm I'm talking about. I do mine first thing in the morning, right? First thing in the morning when I wake up, breath work, I start going through my mantra. I start telling myself my stories, the truth about what I'm doing, right? But also throughout the day,